Nick Arnold was born in the US, and it was the Second World War that first brought him to Europe. He made Paris his home once the war was over. He lived with his family in Deya from 1965 to 1972, making many return visits in the years that followed. When he died in Goa in 2005, his daughter Annie discovered a suitcase in his hotel room. It contained the poems that she's going to read to us now.
Burnt or buried? Earth or sky? Which is better? Not a question to be quibbled when one is young, idealistic and principled, but uninformed about the working of the worm. Let my ashes fly, we cry. Who am I to take up space on our lovely planet when dead I am? To all but friends, a few gods and angels, and the vertiginously receding point in the universe where my death occurred. So my ashes on the wine-dark sea I loved to swim, or on the mountain I used to climb, or around the tree where truth came to me. Or so I thought with the arrogance of the young, until I learned about the workings of the worm. Not the bad ones, of course, which whittle us down and hollow us out when we're still alive, but the good ones who eat us up when we're dead and ready to spread into a richer, more fertile Mother Earth.
Hamish Macdonald ha estat tenint Deya des de l'any 1978. Va tocar amb los Offbeats i los Beatles i també va escriure el primer poema sobre Deya que va ser publicat mai en el diari de Solla.
The irony with the Sex Beatles was I was the one person who didn't speak Spanish, and I was the lyric writer, and I was challenged to write something in Spanish by one of the editors of the Solia newspaper, and at the time there was big suppression of human rights in Argentina and Chile, which we've seen tried to spread its wings in Spain in 1981 when Lieutenant Colonel Tejera walked into the Spanish government and told them to give up. The military were taking over. If we let that system continue, we will never have another day. We will never see this village rise up like it has in the face of Franco's oppression. This is called Recuerda a las Inocentes, and I apologize for my Spanish. Recuerdas a las Inocentes en los hostales de los ciegos, claro, las cárceles llenas, la manta mojada en el fuego, que quema con el derecho, los derechos del infierno de la derecha. Abierto en la oscuridad, siempre la esperanza. En las garras del poder, la pareja sigue su danza. Recuerda a las inocentes, olvida a las culpables, víctimas del pensamiento, cerrados a la luz, que los liberados se reparten como una cruz. La presencia del uniforme, el carnet en la puerta, han venido por la expresión debido, prefieren su muerte. Sí, el tango apenas se respira y la salsa pica todavía. Las palabras son de azúcar, desnudan por miedo y tontería. Many people here know the Rullan family ran Bar Palmeras when I first came here, and Sebastian Rullan, who sadly died a couple of months ago, was one of my greatest friends and the person who helped me more than many other people I've ever known in my life. And I wrote him a song years ago, but I will always quote just the first line, which I think is a poem in itself. A poem for Sebastian Rullan. Mucho gracias, señor. Café con leche, por favor. And one very quick one for his Geordie, who's the son of Sebastian, and Juana, who is here tonight. I'm very pleased to see. Geordie was my great friend, and we formed a band, the Offbeats. We became the Sex Beatles. One day in rehearsal, he said, "Hey, how come you write one for my father? You don't write one for my mother." So I wrote, "I want a big fat Spanish mama for my breakfast. I want a big fat Spanish mama for my tea. I want a big fat Spanish mama for my dinner. I want a big fat Spanish mama just for me." The last one is a poem that, when I first came back to Deya after Robert Graves died, as you do, find yourself sitting in the graveyard on your own. And it's very quiet. It can be very still. It's one of the most beautiful places to sit in there. And there are many other people in the graveyard. It's not just Robert up there, I assure you. And many of our friends who lie there still, and I think we should all take time to remember them. So when I came back to Deya, I sat there in the graveyard and I wrote this poem just because I was in Deya, and I never edited it. I found it yesterday in pencil, and I thought this should be read. I have stood and marked time by a poet's grave in the evening rays of August light, beneath the ash-grey green of Spanish tree, and under the great walls of mountain face, where spirals down the village far beyond its highway heart. I rest within a graveyard still on the peak of a local grace. A shepherd's bell clanks its dull ring across the roofs and groves, amongst the olive trees like lovers entwined upon the slopes.